This Ginny cat is here. You can hear her jingling her identification. You want to come back here, Ginny? Over here, where the folks can see you? Yeah, see all your fans that like you? Yes, Ginny. Oh, and then she just went to sleep. Kaplunk. Boy, when that kitty sits down, she really sits down. Now, for the jokes for today, Peter said that a husband is like wine. He gets better with age. And Marilyn said if I'd known that, I would have kept mine in the cellar. And Charlene was married to a banker, and then she married an actor, and then she married a minister, and then she married an undertaker. So that's 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready, and 4 to go. And that was Ginny, 4 to go. She just left. I will have to do the hymn because Franklin isn't here. And Franklin has a much better voice than I do, perhaps better than 75% of the people in this world. He really has a beautiful tenor voice. So I will have to do it. God of grace and God of glory, on thy people pour thy power. Crown thine ancient church's story, bring to bud her glorious flower. Grant us wisdom, grant us courage, for the facing of this hour, for the facing of this hour. And the facing of this hour, I hope you do not think, is a chat with Glendora. And this is what happened on the week from Thursday, December the 22nd, to Thursday today, December the 29th. And first we will deal with Scott Lord, and whoever thought that a liar, a thief, and a crook out of Nassau County could make me go to the United States Supreme Court. But that is what has happened. And it was chasing Scott Lord out there on the bankruptcy successfully and getting paid on that, but in the meantime running into the negligence of Judge John Robert Hall and of Judge Conrad Duberstein, and I brought a lawsuit against them, and that ended up in the United States, in the Southern District of New York. I didn't bring it there. I brought it in the Supreme Court of the State of New York. It was yanked out of there and taken to the United States District Court, Southern District in White Plains. And Judge Cattell made a decision, obviously, covering up for his buddy judges, Hall and Duberstein, and throwing justice to the winds. And so I appealed Judge Cattell's decision in the United States Court of Appeals, Second Circuit. And there we had 3 judges who stood up for Judge Cattell and threw justice to the winds. That would be Judges Winter, Jacobs, and Cabranes. And so that should not happen in the United States of America. We pledge allegiance to the flag with liberty and justice for all, and this should never happen. And so now I'm taking it before the United States Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. And there was considerable progress on this after the winter solstice, December the 21st, and now the days are getting longer and the sun rises much farther to the north already. I am negotiating with CNN for a $35,000 airtime buy. They got off to a terrible start, but finally they seem to wake up and act professionally. And so that buy is pending now, and I'll tell you more as it progresses. I work every day on the United States Supreme Court. Number 1, I write 5 pages, handwritten pages, telling right now the statement of the case and the argument why a petition for writ of certiorari should be granted. And then Franklin types those 5 pages every day. And then every day I go through my Supreme Court file. This is it right here. I don't know if you can see how big it is. And every day I read the rules of the United States Supreme Court. That's this booklet right here. And read 5 pages of that every day. Or I read the instructions that the clerk sent how to file a petition for writ of certiorari, or the example that they sent of one. These clerks are very, very good. You have to give them a lot of credit. Or the one that I talked to down there, I think, is Eileen. Sorry. Sorry, Eileen. But she's very good, and I've talked to a couple of others who are males. These are the questions that I have to answer them about every week. I try to call up and ask my questions and get answers. This is the bad work that I'm appealing by Judges Cabranes, Winter, and Jacobs. And this is the first part of the writ for certiorari that has been typed. It'll probably be revised several times. Here's an informa pauperis application. And here are the laws that the jurisdiction of the United States Supreme Court upon which this jurisdiction is invoked. It would be Title 42 United States Code, Section 1983. My rights as a United States citizen have been violated by not having due process and by not getting equal protection of the law. Judges Hall and Duberstein got protection from the law through their buddy Judge Cattell and through their other buddies, the 3 in the United States Court of Appeals I've named to you, but I did not. And so the United States Court of Appeals, the United States Supreme Court has to know about this. So I think that just about covers it. Tomorrow, Friday, I've done my writing for today. Tomorrow, Friday, I will write handwritten pages 31 to 32. And let me just show you some of Franklin's typing. So that's the file. I go through this file every day. And this is all ready to be typed tomorrow. I have written my part today. And Franklin it's written on scrap paper. See, that's the handwriting, and then Franklin will type this part tomorrow. He did his yesterday's, and he started today's. So that's the file on the United States Supreme Court, and this is recycled paper, 100% recycled paper. It looks too much like pulp. And this is the segment that has to be typed today for Thursday. This is the handwritten stuff right here. And how far up am I on it? I'm up to the end of Judge Cattell's decision. And a whole lot of things happened there. Judge Holland came on the bankruptcy case and settled it. That was successful. That's over. Scott Lord had to pay $14,500, and Jan Stahl and Jeffrey Barnes had to pay $5,000. And one of them lives in Baldwin, I believe, and I missed my trip out to Baldwin Harbor Friday night to go to a meeting of Americans for legal reform. I missed it, I'm sorry to say. Our Get Up and Go had got up and went. We just didn't have what it takes to drive out there. And that's too bad, because it's important. I asked the Department of, this is what Franklin's typewriting looks like. He's up to page 12. I can have this 65 pages long. I hope that it isn't. But this is my argument and my statement of the case. Up to page 12 so far. That can't be read to you now until it's finished. I called the Department of Consumer Affairs, and I asked, does Scott Lord have a license? And I was told the following. Let me get out the Scott Lord daily log here. By a woman named Miss Jones, who looked everything up in the computer. And I have it down exactly what she said. first I called and Nancy answers. And I said, does Scott Lord have a consumer affairs license? And she says, one moment, and I'll connect you to the licensing division. And that's when Miss Jones came on and said, Scott Lord does not have a license. Does Atlantis Lawn Sprinkler have a license? Atlantis Lawn Sprinkler does not have a license. Does Forever Green have a license? And there is a Forever Green Landscaping in Wantagh that has a license. And I said, no, that's another Forever Green. She says, there's nothing listed. I said, is Scott Lord Group doing business as Atlantis Lawn Sprinkler and Forever Green have a license? And she said, no, he just doesn't have one. His license has been revoked. And she's looking in the computer. And her number is 516-571-2473. And that was at 12:49 p.m. yesterday, Wednesday. So the next question is, why is the Department of Consumer Affairs, under the commissionership of James E. Picken, allowing Scott Lord to operate a home improvement license in Nassau County when Scott Lord has no consumer affairs license? That is always the question. Including Christmas, I work on this, a petition for writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court, all started by Scott Lord. And the total time on Scott Lord last week was 6 hours, and last week would be the week of December the 19th, the week of December 19th. The money spent on Scott Lord was zero. Ed said to his wife, honey, you look the same as you did 25 years ago when we got married. And honey said, yes, that's because I'm wearing the same dress. And the woman went to a lawyer and she said she wanted a divorce, and the lawyer says, do you have a grudge? And the woman says, no, we have a carport. And the lawyer says, does he beat you up? And she says, no, I'm up before he is every morning. And the lawyer says, well, do you have grounds? And she says, yes, 1.5 acres. And the lawyer says, why do you want a divorce? And the woman says, we have a communications problem. And Dottie says that marriage is a grind. She says you get up in the morning, you make the bed, you take out the garbage, you do the dishes, and 2 weeks later you got to do it all over again. Franklin and I celebrated our 40th anniversary, and we went up to the church. The women in the church asked me to take poinsettia on Christmas Day, which was Sunday, which was a church day. After church, asked me to take a poinsettia to Merrill and Eleanor Folsom, who celebrated their 72nd wedding anniversary a month or two ago, and we never got a chance to go up there and celebrate it with them. So since we had to go up and take the poinsettia, we celebrated their 72nd anniversary and our 40th anniversary. We were married on Christmas Day. And so that's a combined 112 years of married life that we celebrated on Sunday, December the 25th, Christmas. We miss a lot of cable casting of programs because people are lazy. They always want Monday off, or they always want Friday off. So Monday's a very bad day to be scheduled to be on cable TV because everybody's loafing. We lost a program on July 4th. We lost a program on Memorial Day. We lost a program on Labor Day. We lost a program on October 12th, I believe. And we lost a program on Christmas, and we lost a program on New Year's because everybody wants to loaf. So I have asked to be changed and get out of Mondays and get into another day in the middle of the week. I think it's terrible. Cross River is only working 3 days this week. I think it's awful. These people are already given a day off for Christmas, and then they got to take off the Friday before Christmas and the Monday after Christmas and so forth. I just think it's awful. I think it's aimlessness and sin. I don't think that's what we came here to America to start this country for, so that we could loaf all the time. We came here to accomplish things. I have very long and profound conversations with Patricia White of Sag Harbor, who is a lawyer, and she has a freedom of speech case. She has written her petition for rehearing to Judges Minor, Van Grafelen, and McLaughlin, the same panel that is considering Glendora's freedom of speech case against Cablevision in the United States Court of Appeals, Second Circuit. And Patricia says brilliant things, and she really thinks things through. She has a client, another client that she's defending, and this client says that he or she has a right to freedom of speech to hear what Glendora says. In other words, not only did Cablevision violate freedom of speech in keeping Glendora from seeing it on cable TV, but Cablevision also violated his freedom of speech by keeping him from hearing it or watching it. So, so it's really a good case that she's bringing up for him. And so Glendora will be going back to the United States Court of Appeals through that case. There was something else. Yes, as I write this chronology for the United States Supreme Court, it's such a dismal chronology. When you write out the things that Judge Hall did, and the things that Judge Duberstein did, and the things that Scott Lord, Jeffrey Barnes, Jan Stahl did, and the things that the former United States trustee Andrew Maloney did, and the former United States, did I say trustee, former United States attorney, United States attorney in the Eastern District, Andrew Maloney, the former United States trustee Harold Jones, the former United States assistant trustee Neil Mann, and the current trustee Teresa Kavanaugh. It's just such a bad record. And these people are representing the United States of America. It is just so bad. Why can't people just live by the law, live by the Golden Rule, live by the Ten Commandments? It's really so much easier. December the 23rd, I want to chat with Glendora, 10 o'clock, Channel 25. There was not one telephone call. Not one single telephone call, not one married telephone call. And that seemed very peculiar to me because that's never happened. Always there's in-calls that come when a chat with Glendora is on Channel 25 in Nassau County on Cablevision. Guess what? It was a storm, the nor'easter. Apparently electricity was out in addition to cable being out. So I have asked for a make good on that because I don't want to get my programs out of sequence and behind. There's too much happening. You just can't let this news pile up. Time spent on Cablevision the week of December 19th was 13.25 hours. And I can't see that any money was spent on Cablevision. The time spent on Cablevision the week of December the 19th was 15 hours, and the money spent was $4.25. Glendora has called all of the news departments of all of the major, the VHF TV stations, the big ones, Channel 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and about Cablevision not paying the cost of $797 when they lost the lawsuit and had to put the program back on the TV. The cost was $797, and Cablevision has not paid those and is in violation of Section 8101 of the CPLR, Civil Practice Laws and Rules. And Cablevision's assets are $1.5 billion. And they got an order to, and Judge Silverman should never have signed such an order. Cablevision did this the same week that they spent $1.1 billion to buy Madison Square Garden. And so I told that story to all of the news channels, all of the news departments of the major channels. I've never seen it show up on News 12, have you? Long Island. Curii, Robert T. Perry. You remember that Robert T. Perry and Brian Grafman were the amicus curiae for Manny on my Glendora versus Cablevision case, the first lawsuit against Cablevision for violating my freedom of speech and also for breaking Federal Law 47 United States Code 531E. And this is written to the Honorable Ellsworth A. Van Grafelen, United States District Court, 2820 U.S. Courthouse, 100 State Street, Rochester, New York, 14614. The Honorable Roger J. Minor, United States District Court, United States Post Office and Courthouse, 445 Broadway, Albany, New York. And the Honorable Joseph M. McLaughlin, United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, 40 Foley Square, New York, 10007. Regarding Glendora versus Cablevision Systems Corporation, index number 947289, argued on September the 20th, 1994. And it's 3 months, and we still haven't got a decision. Your Honor, I represent Media Access New York, Manny, M-A-N-Y, amicus curiae in support of plaintiff appellant Glendora in the above action. I am writing this letter in response to the letter dated December 9th, 1994 from Robert M. Callaghy, attorney for defendants appellees Cablevision Systems Corporation et al., apprising the panel of the recent order in number 947756, affirming Judge Broderick's dismissal of another of Glendora's lawsuits against the defendants appellees. The Broderick case was the third lawsuit against Cablevision, Glendora versus Charles Dolan, because Judge Bryant never dealt with my claim that Cablevision broke Title 47 of the United States Code 531E, no cable operator shall exercise editorial control over public use of channel. Judge Bryant ignored that completely, and I certainly couldn't let Cablevision get by with that. So I had to file a third lawsuit, and that was the one in United States District Court. Unfortunately, it fell into the hands of Judge Broderick, who was inept, if not corrupt, in his decision. And the United States District Court affirmed that, and that's when Callaghy, of course, got out a letter trying to influence the panel on the first case, which was improper. But anyway, this is Perry's letter in answer to the letter that Callaghy sent the Judge Minor panel. Okay, Perry says, while Manny continues to believe that Judge Broderick erred in ruling that Cablevision was not subject to the strictures of Title 47 of the United States Code 531E, the affirmance of Judge Broderick's decision on the ground inter alia of res judicata makes it clear that Glendora's claim under that statute was properly the subject of the earlier lawsuit before Judge Bryant. Moreover, Manny now agrees that Glendora implicitly raised the statutory claim in the court below when she cited Missouri Knights versus Kansas City, Missouri. And then he gives all the numbers for that, 1989, which expressly addressed several public access producers' claims under Title 47 of the United States Code 531E. As we have elsewhere noted, Manny, Glendora's pro se complaint must be liberally construed on this appeal. Manny also believes that Glendora's other pro se papers should receive a similar liberal construction. Sincerely, Robert T. Perry, to the Clerk of the Court of the United States Court of Appeals, Robert M. Callaghy, Esquire, and to Glendora. It's an excellent letter. You did a good job, Robert Perry. Another thing, you know how I've been talking every day, well, 2-3 times a week, we'll say, to the New York State Attorney General's Office, the Department of Law, and I say, one, is Oliver Capel, the Attorney General of the state of New York, going to intervene on Glendora versus James A. Cofault. That's the Cablevision lawsuit 2 in the state court, where Cablevision lost because they violated a state law on censoring public access. Is U.S. Attorney General Capel going to intervene on that? And the answer has always been, for months, I don't know, I don't know. And they kept claiming, well, we sent you a letter, we sent you a letter. And 8 times I had to tell them that they didn't send me a letter. And so finally this comes in, and look at this, folks. This, well, let me read you what I wrote. Attorney General Capel, I am not talking about your intervening in the New York Supreme Court case. This is the New York Supreme Court case. It's not the case that's in the appellate division. Second Department. That was over July the 28th. The Silverman case was over July the 28th in New York Supreme Court. I am talking about your intervening in the appellate division case, the Second Department. I have asked Brenda and Mrs. Lynch for 2 months. Is the New York State Attorney General going to intervene in Glendora's case against Cablevision in the appellate division? 15 times the answer was, I don't know. 5 times it was, we sent you a letter. Then look what letter they said they sent. There is no excuse for such ineptitude. I report every week on TV about this. Are you going to intervene on Glendora versus Cablevision in the Appellate Division, Second Department? I sent you a copy of my notice of appeal and of the cross appeal. I cannot understand how an office can be run this badly. Another question I have been asking your office is, quote, who is the Assistant Attorney General handling the New York Business Corporation law? A New York statute. The answer I get is, I don't know. Cablevision has violated Section 718 and Section 624 on 8 accounts of the New York State Business Corporation law, a New York statute. Why do you run such a bad office? Glendora asks Attorney General of New York State, Oliver Capel. Yours in truth, Glendora. And then I gave him the jokes of the day. I just can't understand how an office can be that inept. Now, here's another piece. Here's another decision. Here is a decision, rather. And this is from the New York Supreme Court, Appellate Division, Second Department. The judges are Charles B. Lawrence, Fred T. Santucci, Miriam J. Altman, and Gloria Goldstein. It's a decision in order on a motion. The case is 94-07468. That means that the Appellate Division, when they got this motion, or got this appeal, had 7,468 cases this year. And as I've told you before, if we had decent judges in the Supreme Court of the state of New York, Westchester County, we wouldn't have that many cases. We wouldn't have that many decisions being appealed. This is a motion by the appellant. this year. And as I've told you before, if we had decent judges in the Supreme Court of the state of New York, Westchester County, we wouldn't have that many cases. We wouldn't have that many decisions being appealed. This is a motion by the appellant on an appeal from an order of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, entered July the 28th, 1994, to amend the caption of the action by deleting from the list of defendants the name, quote, Cable Systems Corporation, unquote, and substituting, therefore, the name Cablevision Systems Corporation, unquote. Upon the papers filed in support of the motion and no papers having been filed in opposition thereto, it is ordered that the motion is granted. That's the first time the Appellate Division, 2nd Department, has ever ruled for me. That's the first relief they have ever given me, and I've had 12 appeals before them. Enter Martin H. Brownstein, clerk, on December the 2nd, 1994, Glendora versus Kofalt. Isn't that nice? Now, I want to note to you that this week it has been beautiful at 5:30 a.m. to go out in the December air, which hasn't been real December air. It's been so wonderful since August, all this beautiful weather. December's been 50 degrees so far. Isn't it terrific? And no snow. Anyhow, you go out and you look in the sort of the southeast sky, and you see the cutest little, you see a cute picture. I tried to draw a picture of it here. You see the Venus down there, and then a crescent moon, rather, in the planet path. It's so pretty. I send to Cablevision as I read pages that apply to them from the Securities Exchange Act and how Cablevision is in violation of it with all of their cover-up. And they won't give me the shareholders list. They won't give me the current list of directors and officers with their current home addresses. They're supposed to do that. I'm a shareholder. And this tells how the Securities Exchange Commission conducts investigations. And so I guess it's going to look like we're going to move toward that. The Securities Exchange Commission is empowered to issue subpoenas requiring sworn testimony and the production of books, records, and other documents pertinent to the subject matter under investigation. In the event of refusal to respond to a subpoena, the Commission may apply to a federal court for an order compelling obedience. The Commission is there to protect the general public. This is about the distinction between a broker and a dealer. A common type of violation involves a broker-dealer who gains the customer's trust and then takes undisclosed profits in securities transactions with or for the customer over and above the agreed commission. Whom I like very much at the United States Court of Appeals really gave me a bad report. They said there was a letter from Callagy, and it was a letter praising the panel for, now this is praising the minor panel. All right, it's a letter to the minor panel praising the bad Lavelle panel for affirming Judge Broderick's terrible decision and really illegal decision. And that's the letter that I just read you the Perry response to, and last week I read you my response to. Praising them for that, and it's a queer way to make an entry, I think, into a docket, a letter praising. It was a letter informing them of it, which Callagy never should have written anyway. So I didn't know whether this was another letter and whether I hadn't got a copy of a second Callagy letter to my panel, and so I called up Sadley, Stevens, Burke and Burke. You know, the copying company, they make copies. That's their job. They have copy machines and they make copies and they charge 15 cents per page. So I called them up and Kalaji is loafing, and his secretary is loafing, and the office is completely unguarded. And then I got Strickland on the phone, and she says, I don't know anything about it. And then she giggles the way Kalaji giggles, because Kalaji has taught her how to giggle. Giggle at the Appellate Division, giggle at the United States Court of Appeals. And so she knew nothing about it. And I said, if there is a second letter, I want a copy of it sent out to me today. And there was no satisfaction with her, so I called Gilman Burke's office, and his secretary wasn't at the desk. Can you imagine that? Can't anybody be on the job and do the job they're getting paid for? And his secretary wasn't at the desk, and another woman answered, and she didn't know anything about it, and there was no satisfaction there. So later I called Gilman Burke again, and he answered, and I told him that I, in the meantime, called back the United States Court of Appeals and had him read me all the letters. And the letters were September 22nd, a letter from the amicus curiae. That would be Robert Perry, that's okay. And September 28th, Cablevision's response to that letter. And then December 14th, there were only 3 letters that showed up in the docket. So by the process of elimination, I found out that there wasn't any new letter. So I called Gilman Burke and told him that. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, well, whatever I was talking about before, it's all right. You don't have to do anything. So then I told him a joke. And the joke I told him was about the lawyer who said to his client, my retainer fee is $300, and for that you get 2 questions. And his client said, isn't that expensive? And the lawyer said, yes. What's your second question? And now for some jokes. There was a sign in front of a house, drum set for sale, and in the house next door in front of it was another sign that said, hooray! And a midget fortune teller escaped from jail. A midget fortune teller escaped from jail, and the headline in the newspaper was, small, medium, at large. Daddy said to his son, son, you have to learn from the mistakes of others. You have to learn from the mistakes of others. You just don't have time to make them all yourself. On Glendora versus Judge Coppola and the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal, nothing is happening on that. We're waiting for the appellate division to give us a date for an oral argument, and that probably won't be until Christmas 1995, a year from now. On Glendora versus Lydia Gallicano, Glendora's motion to dismiss Lydia Gallicano's small claims action against her, which is really an insane thing to do, and also for Lydia Gallicano to pay Glendora $2,000 for violating the Uniform Justice Court Act. Section 1804, res judicata, and abusing the small claims process. We have a trial. We go to court on that on January the 4th, 1994, Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon, White Plains City Court before Judge Joanne Freya. And knowing Judge Freya, she will say, this is the first time on, yes, or maybe she's made her decision. Maybe she's made her decision to dismiss it. And if she hasn't, then there would be a trial. I sort of doubt there would be a trial because it's so obviously res judicata, and I wrote 34 pages of evidence showing that it was res judicata. Glendora versus Mitchell Broder and Gannett Suburban Newspapers and Gannett Company Incorporated, GCI, John Curley, Douglas McCorkindale, Gary Watson, who's the president of the newspaper division, Gary Sherlock, who's to blame for anything that happens in Westchester, Putnam, and Rockland, and Kenneth Paulson, the same. Nothing happened the week of December the 22nd to today, December the 29th. Nothing happened. I don't know whether I will make a motion to vacate the $535 judgment of Kalaji, or I will make a and then the other $45 paying his printing costs in the United States Court of Appeals case, bringing a case where I brought a case against Gannett for being a monopoly in Westchester County, which we all know is so. And then again, we have another bad decision by Judge Broderick, the United States District Judge, who should not be on the bench. He got $45 costs for a job that I would have paid $2 to have copied for. Or was it $4? Yeah, $4 that I would have had copied for. And so when I finish the Scott Lord, United States Supreme Court, Judge Hall, Judge Duberstein, Judge Cattell, Judge Winter, Judge Jacobs, Judge Capranis, when I finish my my petition for writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court, and that I will start on the Gannett petition for writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court. So that's where that stands. So nothing's happened on that this week. Stock of Gannett is up to 54 now, when it usually languishes around 46, 47, 48, and that's because Warren Buffett has bought 4.9% into Gannett. I hope that he will get rid of Curley and all of the bad management of Gannett that I have reported to you now since 1990. And what is going on Glendora versus Elizabeth Hubbard, Michelle Mayapath, Alan Beck, and the Fund for Ancient Courts. Nothing has happened this week except that we did get this decision from the New York Supreme Court, Appellate Division, Second Department. Thomas R. Sullivan, J.P., Charles B. Lawrence, Fred T. Santucci, Daniel W. Joy. We have a judge named Joy. In case number 94, 09045, and it's Glendora Appellant versus Elizabeth Hubbard et al. Respondents, decision in order on a motion. Motion by the appellant to stay all proceedings in the Supreme Court pending hearing and determination of an appeal from an order of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, dated September 8, 1994, upon the papers filed in support of the motion and the papers filed in opposition thereto. It is ordered that the motion is denied. And enter Martin H. Brownstein, the clerk, on December the 12th, 1994, Glendora versus Hubbard. That's a very bad decision. The action in the lower court, the Judge Colabella court, should have been stayed. Glendora wrote very good reasons why. Purdy, or Purvis, Edmund Purvis, did not give one good reason why the action shouldn't be stayed. It's a bad decision all around. It's spite and malice on the part of Judge Colabella and Raymond Powell, and it's just spite and malice. And also his other two bad law clerks, Stephen Kellner and T.J. Mallon. The court, the Fund for Modern Courts, breached covenant. They should be disciplined. They shouldn't be allowed to get away with it the way the Judge Colabella court did. Here's another thing from the past. Here's Judge Colabella walking down a street in Mount Vernon, visiting the scene where the doctor was murdered. And always in the court, they tell the jury never to go visit the scene. Never visit the scene. But here he is doing it. I have a whole lot of things against Judge Colabella. I'll be reading reading them to you the week of January 2nd. And I guess that's next week. So I want to tell all of you people who are monitoring for the Fund for Modern Courts, you're out there giving your time, your gasoline, your energy, and paying for your own postage and paying for your own copying. I just want to tell you that you very likely will be double-crossed by the Fund for Ancient Courts, Elizabeth Hubbard, Michelle Mayapath, and Alan Beck. I was. They promised to publish a report, and we worked so hard, 100 hours or more, and we paid out all that money and bought our own supplies and donated our time, Franklin and me, and they went back on their word. They never published a report. All of that work out in the snow and the ice in the winter, and it was, remember what a terrible winter we had last year? And all of that was for naught, because they went back on their word. You cannot trust them. They are not reliable. They do not live by the law, and here they are out trying to reform the courts, upon which they're doing nothing. They're accomplishing nothing. And I can't see as they ever have. So that's the fun for ancient court. If you're monitoring for them, quit, because you will not be appreciated. You will be spat upon. For ancient courts, there was a report on them on TV Tuesday night on TCI, 21 Towns in Westchester. And it was on Tuesday night from about 9 to about 9:10 p.m. In the Fund for Modern Courts, we're waiting for Judge Colabella to give a date upon which Glendora and Purvis will go before the trial assignment part for a hearing for a Purvis to defend his outrageous claim that he earned $4,500 in court in lawyers' fees. He's about the worst. You know, lawyers are bad anyway, and he's just about the bottom of the pile. As far as Glendora versus Michael Gelman, a little background about that. In 1989, Christmas, and this is 1994, so it's 5 years ago. Michael Gelman said to send a videotape of Glendora's jokes, and he would see if he could use them on Live with Regis. Glendora sent the videotape. Gelman would never come to the phone again. Gelman would never answer any letters. He would never return any calls. And he never returned the videotape. And so I let it go for 5 years, and I made an oral demand every week for the videotape until it became obvious that he'd lost it. He did see it. Mr. Calvin Norman, my account executive of WABC TV Channel 7, reported that he saw it, he liked it, and he couldn't use it. So then he would never return the tape, and it became apparent to me that he had lost it or destroyed it. And so I let it go, and I made an oral demand for $120 every week for 5 years. That would be something like, how many oral demands would that be? About 250, 200. Then I decided to sue him, and I did so on September the 20th. He was a fugitive of service. We tried to serve a subpoena on him. Everybody down there lied. And so then he offered to settle, which of course showed the admission that he was wrong. And then the terms of the release were outrageous and violated American rights, and I wouldn't sign the release. And so they go on with their madness. That would be Chris DiGiulio and Joyce Bigelow, Biond and DiGiulio lawyers at 99 Wall Street. And they went on with their madness, and they sent out a notice to admit, and this is wrong, you can't do that in small claims court. And so I wrote a motion that the notice to admit should be dismissed, and there should be a warrant for Michael Gelman to appear at court. I believe it's January 11th or January 10th. And if he doesn't appear, that he should be locked up in jail until he gets ready to testify. And so that's how it was going. And on December the 28th, Wednesday at 8:16 a.m., I get this call, and I'm going to play it for you.
Mr. Ross, I'm calling from Viacom of Biond and Julia.
Yeah.
I'm calling about,
Hold the line just a second.
He's from Biond and DiGiulio. His name is Michael Ross.
What's your job there, Mr. Ross? What's your job there?
paralegal.
You're a paralegal. Wait just a second.
papers, tapes, possession, custody, control of Glendora Buell pertaining to the statement of claim filed with the court.
Huh?
Any records that you may have in your possession pertaining to the statement of claim filed with the court pertaining to the relief sought in the matter of Buell against Gelman.
Buell against Gelman.
And the reason I'm calling is just to see if you would be amenable to service.
The answer is no. And I've told these crooks before that everything is served in the post office box.
Okay, thank you very much.
And as I say, that telephone call was 8:16 in the morning. It used to be that you could get up and have a little time to yourself and get things done. And now the calls come in at 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. and the day is already off. So we will wait for that subpoena to come to the post office box. And then I'll read it to you probably next week. Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, when I finished the telephoning, about 120 calls, Franklin and I started looking for the Gelman audio tapes. And we have some of them already for the court, but I think I'm going to go way back to the one in 1989, where he said send him a videotape and he'd look at it. So I'm going to find that one. So that's many, many years and many, many, many videotapes to go back. And that took Franklin and myself 2 half hours each. That'd be an hour. And then at 3 a.m. this morning, I got up and I did the United States Supreme Court work left over from Wednesday and what had to be done today. So later today, Franklin and I hope to look through the tapes and find the Gelman tapes, some of them. There are like 60 or 70 of them, or more. And did you know, folks, there's just one thing that money can't buy? There's just one thing that money... About poverty, did you know that poverty is hereditary? You get it from your children. Billy says that all of his assets are liquid assets. He says, all of my assets are liquid assets, and his mother-in-law says, yes, that means they're down the drain. Here's what happened on the week of December the 22nd to December the 29th today on the law-breaking of James Daniel and Roberta Walsh, Nella and Theo Alpucci, and Kevin and Andrew Larkin, and of their lawyers, and of what is going on in the inept courts. Now, Thursday, December the 22nd, it took 2 hours to videotape and to edit the Wall law-breaking. Franklin picked up the police reports of Officer Glynn. Franklin took the Walsh law-breaking on TV to Yorktown, Salem, Bedford, Mount Kisco, Putnam Valley, to be published on Cablevision. And here's what happened on December the 23rd, 1994, Friday. Here is a police report that we picked up, written by Officer Eric Fisher. It says the report was taken over the phone. The complainant called and reported on the above date between the above times at the above location. Now, the above location is 21 Greenwich Avenue, White Plains, New York. This report really happened on December the 19th, not December the 20th. The location, a youth with who also lives at the above location, was roller skating under complainant's south window. It went by 60 times, making noise. The complainant felt this was done to harass her. No I said no, it was on December the 19th, not December the 20th. The youth was James Walsh. The time of the law breaking was 6:37 p.m. to 7:20 p.m. And this is the report by first page by Officer Glynn, Glynn, John Glynn, police officer. I responded to 21 Greenwich Avenue and reported a dispute between two tenants. Upon arrival, I met with Mr. Walsh, who stated that his neighbor, Glendora, apartment 2A, had gone outside with a video camera to tape his son, 13 years, roller skating in the driveway of the apartment complex at, he says, 1800 hours. Mr. Walsh's son fell to the ground. To avoid running into Glendora, who had tried to block his path, the youth suffered 2 bruises to his left elbow. Mr. Walsh and son did not request medical attention at this time, but will visit the family doctor to make sure the injury isn't more serious. I then went to apartment 2A to speak with Glendora to get her side of the dispute, and Glendora stated that she had observed the youth roller skating in the driveway 74 times. She then denied causing the youth to fall. I responded to headquarters to speak with the desk officer, Lieutenant Winters, about the incident. It was decided that I would respond back to Mr. Walsh's apartment to take a Polaroid picture of the youth's injury. Mr. Walsh was advised that the report would be referred to Youth Division for possible charges of endangerment and against Glendora. This report will be forwarded to Police Officer Fisher and Lieutenant Rossi for follow-up investigation. Okay. This is a lie. He did not fall that hard. He tripped. It was his own fault. There are plenty of places for him to skate. Rossi for follow-up investigation. Okay. This is a lie. He did not fall that hard. He tripped. It was his own fault. There are plenty of places for him to skate. He was doing this as a deliberate harassment, intent to annoy and alarm with no legitimate purpose. He broke a second law, intentional infliction of emotional disturbance. He broke a third law, the White Plains Noise Ordinance. He broke each law 74 times. 74 times 3 equals 222 tortious acts. He should be locked up. Daniel Walsh lies, Roberta Walsh lies, therefore their son James lies. James Walsh started this. His parents perpetuated this. When Daniel Walsh came downstairs, he paid no attention to his son, but put all of his attention on Glendora. And Daniel Walsh was truculent and simian and frightened Glendora, who moved hastily toward her apartment door to safety, to which Daniel Walsh said, "You'd better run to your door." When Roberta Walsh came downstairs, she paid no attention to her son, but put all of her attention on Glendora. Roberta Walsh pushed Glendora and shoved Glendora. Roberta slapped Glendora on the head. Roberta grabbed Glendora's hat and threw it on the floor. Franklin said to Glendora, quote, "Your son started this," unquote. Roberta screamed at Franklin and Glendora, which is on audio tape 657-2. And then Roberta went upstairs. Franklin and Glendora went into their apartment. Glenn does not report Glendora's side of the dispute. Did you notice that? He never reported anything that Glendora told him. The above about Roberta committing harassment by pushing and shoving and slapping and taking the hat off the head and throwing it on the floor. You notice that Glenn, I reported this to Glenn, and you notice that Glenn never reports any of it. In the driveway is a Dodge. Sounds like in the driveway is a Dodge car. In the driveway is a cover-up. The accurate report is, quote, "directly under Glendora's bedroom window," unquote. This report does not include the attack on Glendora by Daniel Walsh, nor the harassment part 1, shoving and pushing Glendora, by Roberta Walsh. Roberta slapping Glendora in the head, and Roberta's grabbing Glendora's cap off of Glendora's head and throwing it on the floor. Nor does this report include Franklin's report to Glenn that James Walsh, in addition to harassing Franklin and Glendora with the roller skating, added to it whistling. The White Plains Noise Ordinance specifically states whistling, yelling, shouting, hooting, or singing at any time or place so as to annoy or disturb the quiet, comfort, repose, health, or peace of persons in any dwelling or other residence. Nor does this report state the fact that tortfeasor James Walsh was going only from the southwest corner of our apartment to the southeast corner of our apartment. He was going nowhere else. This shows clear intent to harass and disturb. There are plenty of other places that he could roller skate. Nor does this report state that Officer Glenn's going to Walsh's first when Glendora and Franklin were the first to call the police, and Officer Glenn's refusal to come into our apartment, as he did for the Walsh people, and instead stand in the hall, caused Franklin severe emotional disturbance, to the degree that Officer Glenn asked twice, "Do you want an ambulance?" The police, when Nella Alpucci pushed, shoved, and struck Glendora and caused an injury to Glendora's left arm and left knee, did not come back and take a picture of the same. We find the police in this action, beginning to end, biased, prejudiced, and guilty of favoritism. We have found them so all along. They have never protected us from the hundreds of attacks by the Walsh lawbreakers. Their unilateral infractions are blatant. This is of the White Plains Police. Further, we point out that whenever we report the Walsh attacks on us, the police cop out with, quote, "I didn't see it happen, so I cannot make a charge." Well, they didn't see James Walsh fall. They didn't see how James Walsh got any alleged bruises. They didn't see that. But they didn't say that to James Walsh. They came back and took a picture of it. They can't press charges unless they see it. That's what they tell us. When we report these violations, they say, "I didn't see it happen, so I can't do anything about it. But in the James Walsh case, they go and start talking about charges. Yet in Glenn's report, he is spouting, quote, charges of endangerment, unquote. Any endangerment was initiated by James Walsh with this deliberate, malicious, willful harassment, infliction of emotional disturbance, and violation of the White Plains Noise Ordinance. The audio tape of the words of Officer Knox and Officer Viviano, and a third one, handling this situation, show an atrocious dereliction of duty, public safety. The tape has been laid down on videotape and has been edited and has been scheduled to be on TV. You remember last week I played it for you. This is about the 20th report on the White Plains Police on TV that is a public disgrace. I'm saying here that 20 times it has been reported on TV exactly how the White Plains Police acted, and exactly how they acted is a public disgrace. Insert, when Franklin became very visibly emotionally distressed, Glenn did come into the apartment because he was alarmed by the seriousness of Franklin's emotional disturbance. Simultaneously, Glendora saw Glenn's police hat upside down on the hall floor. Simultaneously, Glendora saw Officer Glenn's police hat upside down on the hall floor. Quickly, to protect the hat from harm, and also Officer Glenn could get in trouble over that, Glendora returned the hat immediately, retrieved the hat immediately and handed it to Glenn. Glenn was with us from 6:51 p.m. to 7:09 p.m. with or against us. It took us 2 hours to rebut the misrepresentations of Glenn et al., and that was from 6:15 a.m. to 7:18 a.m. on Friday morning, December the 23rd. It is depressing how the police always take the side of the crook and do nothing to protect the injured and the innocent. This is a, quote, Department of Public Safety, unquote. 7:20 a.m. And Officer Fisher at one time asked Glendora just one question: why do you keep a record? Question: did you see what James Walsh alleged happened, Officer Glenn? Officer Glenn said to Glendora, not that you care, but I was directing traffic at 6:30 p.m. Glenn said to Glenn, are you the only policeman White Plains has? For all of the taxes we pay, do we only get one policeman? Glendora said, quote, I knew you would get here too late. I knew it would be over by the time you got here, so that you could write on your report, upon arrival, I saw no youth roller skating. Glenn said, if you knew what I was going to write on my report, why did you call? All of this is on audio tape 657 too. The emotional disturbance lingers on 4 days later. Remember, Franklin is 75 years old and a D-Day veteran. This is a fine way to treat a veteran. As if James Walsh had not got his parents into enough trouble already with a $7,000 lawsuit against them. The time of the police, the injury to Glendora and Franklin was all caused by an undisciplined, obstreperous son, 13 years old, and by parents deficient in child care. Fisher called around 3 p.m. on Friday after Glendora called him 3 times. He said he would call Wednesday, and he did it. 7:58 p.m. 2 horn blasts from a foreign car, southeast window, pick up a male in apartment 3B. Fisher said, quote, the same thing happened to you as to me, unquote, meaning half of Glenn's report was missing. Glendora told Fisher he should get after James, Roberta, and Daniel Walsh for breaking the law and should have long ago. They broke 3 laws 62 times Monday night and 74 times Tuesday night. Are you getting paid under the table? Glendora asked Fisher. 1:30 a.m. after sleeping since 9 p.m., Glendora awoke, upset by the Walsh law-breaking and lying, and by the impotence and law-breaking of the White Plains Police, not stopping it. At 1:50 a.m., she got dressed and she worked. Fisher had heard from Glenn how badly disturbed Franklin was by the Walsh attacks, lying, law-breaking, and the police failing in protection. On December the 24th, 1994, Saturday, Conboy, Koza, Odell, Wilson, Babe, lawyers, got caught in an insurance fraud and asked for an order to show cause to stop Glendora for sending the truth to the CEO named Walter Farnham of General Accident. Glendora showed cause, 7:19 a.m. to 11:19 a.m. Franklin typed from 7:19 to 8:19 a. It's 23 handwritten pages to type tomorrow, Christmas, our 40th wedding anniversary. At 2:56 p.m., Glendora wrote 10 pages on grounds for eviction of James, Roberta, and Daniel Walsh. Porzio has to evict them. Frank washed the Lincoln, and the Christmas calls from Rockland, Buffalo, and Valhalla. And it was raining on Christmas. And it was 1 hour on Walsh doing something, Christmas Eve. And at 6 p.m., Daniel, Roberta, James Walsh came down the stairs. This is on Christmas Eve. And just as Daniel Walsh got to our front door of our apartment, Daniel Walsh hollered, "Or you might get arrested." We said nothing to them before, during, or after. They got into the red truck and they drove off. Our Christmas lights were burning brightly. We went to Christmas Eve church service. And Francisco Caballero, our church custodian, retired 2 years ago and returned to Spain.